Hello, so this is a new channel that I am trying to do, which I've been called to do for quite some time now. I reckon I have some issues with there's some people that steal my content and use it for their own. No, it's not me just assuming that. I actually have paperwork on it, an investigation ongoing. Anyhow, I can't let that stop me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So, any conversations just like I'm having or fixing to have is going to be probably more likely altered, voice altered, in a different tone of voice. But it is me. I am the owner of Spiritual Connections, my new endeavor, Spiritual Conversations, is going to be a new platform on YouTube right now, and it's just going to be conversations about spirituality, about connections, about passed on loved ones, dream interpretation, just things that I have actually went through myself, advice, even some conversations with some of my people. Their voices will be altered as well, no names involved. Just tidbits, not the full thing. Just an idea of what I do. Not that it needs to be boasted or bragged on. It's just simply, a lot of people have a misconception of what I do. Over half of people think that I am a witch and I do dark magic, and the other half, almost the other half, think that I'm doing things just for money and it's not my original content. And then I have about less than half who actually know and experienced and knows what I'm all about. So anyhow, I am an intuitive reader. I am an empath. I am a soul healer. I am a guider. I am a light worker. I am a starseed magician. All of my works are through Archangel Michael, Raphael, Uriel, Gabriel. All of my meditations, prayers, healing light sending is through Christ energy, Christ light, and Spirit, God Himself, with the help of my ancestors, my spirit team, my guardians of the middle path, my master ascendants, my spirit guides, and my guardian angel. That is my communication on a daily basis is with them. They are my go-to. They are my peeps, my soul peeps. Anyhow, I am 44 years of age, born in October. I have 3 sons, no daughters. I have a wonderful old man who I've been with, or shall I say who has been with me, ups and downs and crossroads since 2013. I've dealt with 6 deaths in 24 months. One being my son's father. We was together 16 years. He passed in 2020, and then the guy who I was dating 2019, at the end of 2019, I think, passed away in March of 2021. And then right after that, I lost a cousin, a aunt, my aunt's husband, and a uncle. So I know about what I perceive anyway. I know about the feeling, the grief, the mourning of death, of endings, but also rebirths, beginnings, awakenings, seeing things clearer, right, for what they actually are. The purpose of this new platform is to talk about these things, open and freely, to talk about what you can't say to others that they don't understand, right? Because it's pointless, really, to speak to someone or to search for guidance for things that you need with someone who hasn't went through the things that you are searching and seeking out for. I've not been through all of it, but I've been through a hell of a lot. We'll start back at, not too far back. I don't want this to go on too awfully long. I'll probably do this in 2 segments though. Anyway, we'll start back in South Carolina when I lived there with my son's father for about, I want to say, 14, 15 years. Thought I had a pretty good life. Lived on a lake house. He done the work. He didn't want me to work, and to be honest, I didn't want to work either. I stayed home and done my chores, and also I did start a business up doing a bunch of baked goods, but that didn't last, I don't know, a couple years or whatever. But in the whole time that we've been going through, living through this and thinking everything was good, it was not, because the first 5 years of our relationship, I had manipulated him into thinking that my oldest son was his. That lasted all up to the age where he was 5 years old, and we wound up doing a DNA test, and of course he wound up not being his. Well, my husband, or ex-husband, decides to still stay with me, and that right there alone is what triggered my manipulation throughout my life, because that was a big lie, and I lived with it, and he accepted it and still accepted me. Therefore I was like, well, look at there, I manipulated him in that, and he still loves me. What else can I do? So throughout my life, that's what I did, up to 3 years ago. Well, I want to say about 4 years ago. But anyhow, I was raised seeing the manipulation and the lies and everything through my mother, and how she done people. And I always was like, I will never do that. I will never hurt people like that. Well, I wound up being just like her. You could have told me that 5 years ago and better, and I would have smacked the taste out your mouth. Because the last thing I wanted to hear is anything like I was like my mother. But I was. I absolutely was. Anyhow, so we wound up getting a divorce in 2000. Well, here's the thing, we wound up getting married 2006. I wound up serving him separation papers in 2009. Actually over something he didn't do. I sort of told myself that. But here's the thing, between those things, we had all wound up going to church. I wound up teaching Awanas and some Sunday schools for a few years right there in South Carolina, in Seneca, South Carolina. Okay, I was raised holiness, you know, until our preacher wanted to marry everybody, and my mom walked us out of that. And this was the first time I went into a church in, I don't know, 10 plus years. And that's what I wound up doing, which I loved very much so. Excuse me, at this point in time, we had my third child, which would be his first child. And he was about 4 years old. So I would go to schools on Wednesdays and teach Awanas at his school also. Anyway, it was very fulfilling. So we winded up getting the divorce. I wound up getting my own place. Everything was good for about a year. I was still doing things for the church. And then I met someone. Jesus, Lord, I did. I met this guy who was the epitome of the devil. So I wound up getting addicted to meth. And I was drinking, which I had been doing that anyway. But it just become worse. I want to say from 2010 to 2009. Yeah, 2009 to probably 2011 or 2010, something like that. Anyhow, so I thought that I was carrying everything good. No, I wasn't. Actually, I was fucking up everything. Didn't realize that at the time, though. So I wound up calling my ex-husband's mother to come pick my youngest son up because I had had my mother tell me and other people, including my family, that my youngest son was digging in dumpsters for food. Now, granted, I wasn't strung out, but I was on dope, okay? But one thing that I was for sure and certain is that my kids were taken care of. But she insisted that he was doing that. So I felt bad about that, like shit. And that is the only reason that I called my ex-husband's mother to come pick him up. Okay? So it wasn't probably about 3 or 4 months later, I got kicked out of the apartment. And me and the person who I was still with, he got us into another place. And my oldest son